We are in southern St. Elizabeth, and southern St. Elizabeth is the breadbasket of Jamaica. And in thinking about the conditions here, the climatic conditions here, one would have to think, how did such a dry place become the breadbasket of a country? And it's simply down to the resilience of the farmers here, their will, their knowledge of the environmental conditions, and the various practices they've put in place over the years to buffer environmental impacts.
So there are two things that will affect the plant, our crops, greatly: drought and rain, too much rain. And if we don't have a balance, we are farmers who will lose a lot.
We used to have like a more moist dirt. Now the dirt is like really dry. The time is getting hotter and hotter, which in return we've seen more insects and pests disturbing the plants.
Down here there's a high amount of pests. Increased pests mean you could buy more chemicals, buy more pesticide, which is going to cause you more. Right now, if you look in my greenhouse, I have to schedule to get it sprayed right now because I have a disease infestation.
So I was here 10 years ago completing my PhD work, and I chose this area because the idea of climate change and its impact, especially on small island states, was just gaining traction at the time. And I wanted to understand how small farmers in this important region, how they're coping with some of these changes in their environments.
Over the years, many years ago, we were accustomed to having rain certain time of the year. But now there are months in the year when we're supposed to, or we expect rain, we don't get any rain.
Because May is normally a rainy season, but climate change has caused that to change. So we have witnessed that during May, although your plant, the time is dry, normally it would be wet, where we would set off, and the rainfall would bring in the crop with a little bit of irrigation water. No, you plant the crop during that season and you realize you're losing the crop because we don't have much water, we don't have any running water. So we normally have to buy water from the truck, and truck come in and we do a little bit of irrigation. So we're suffering really bad from that.
When we talk about climate smart agricultural practices, most of it is not new. You're talking about mulching. You see the farmers with the sophisticated technique of laying the grass on the land. That goes back decades. Because of the increased uncertainty in the environmental conditions that they are so attuned to, the practices that they used to use are not as effective as they used to be. And so it is very important that this type of intervention that we're putting forward builds on that knowledge system that is already here.
Yeah, we are working on a project where we want to enhance farmers' capacity to adopt to climate-smart agriculture best practices, so they can optimize their productivity, but also increase their resilience to climate change.
So in the prioritization process, we perform face-to-face workshops, but also virtual workshops and focus groups discussion. In these sessions, we aim to gather different perspectives on different topics related with the climate-smart practices.
So we're doing these workshops and focus groups to better understand what our farmers' needs and what are their barriers to adopt some of these practices. And then the next step is we are doing a whole session or a whole process where we engage with a lot of stakeholders here in Jamaica, working on prioritizing climate smart agriculture investment portfolios. And the last step of the framework is now developing training manuals for farmers and extension agents.
Most of the practices have been grouped in water management, sustainable water management, sustainable soil management, integrated pest and disease management.
So one of the things that I've learned just from my overall research is that farmers want to be engaged and they want to feel a part of whatever process is happening, particularly when we think about agriculture and climate change. And so the approach towards just overall development of the information for these manuals has been very inclusive. So we want to make sure that the farmers aren't just there at the end where the persons who get this product and are told to go out in their fields and implement the practices, but that they're a part of the process.
We make a mistake if we assume that some of the measures we're going to implement to adapt to climate change, that they will be appropriate for every farmer.
So the project is aimed at increasing productivity and production in the project areas of St. Elizabeth and St. Catherine and Clarendon. St. Elizabeth is known as the breadbasket parish of Jamaica. So with water, irrigable water going into those project areas, we will see an increase in production in those areas.
Normally the approach that is taken in agriculture is towards individual farmers. However, the government is trying to promote this collective effort among farmers.
We have seen, even with the COVID pandemic, whenever there are supply chain challenges, small island states are often left, to scramble to find different types of food to feed their population. And this area is one of these areas that have a lot of potential in terms of delivering on some of the food security outcomes for the whole country. This small area alone can provide all the food that the country needs.
Yes, I'm very optimistic about this farming. I have a 20-year-old daughter who is ready to go off to university. I am also encouraging her to choose farming, something in the farming field, because I see a big future for farming.
As farmers, we are resilient, we are tough people, we love what we are doing, and we think what we are doing is a business. So we treat it that way, and we are hoping and trusting that sometime to come we'll be even more productive.